Okay. They say third time's a charm. I don't know. We'll see. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Sorry, we're having connection issues earlier. And one of the things I want to know is one, do we even have notifications? I used up two, so we should have one more. Let's see if the notifications went out. I think the issue is resolved. I patched it up. I think it's the server, the multi-stream servers having issues. The Streamlabs multi-stream servers. So I'm only streaming directly to YouTube to bypass that problem. And let's give it a minute. I don't want to have to like repeat. And I'm a little annoyed that we have to do this again. Okay, I got a notification. I like to go one time through. I don't want to have to like reissue, restate, read, blah, blah, blah. But we do have notifications. Just went out. So yeah, there seems to be some type of server, multi-stream server issue with Streamlabs. So we're just streaming directly to YouTube, the home base, La Casa. All right. Keeping it in-house today. And so we were talking about this situation with Raquel, the cult she says that she was born and raised in, and that this cult was harassing. As if we're not dealing with enough, I find out that the cult I was born and raised in, makes a video about, I lost my place right there, makes a video about my son, daughter-in-law, and grandson, saying I deserve what happened to us. What kind of religion is that? It makes me sick to my stomach. Why do they do this? Why do they harass everyone that speaks up about their pedo leader, Nason Juan Garcia? The so-called church, La Luz del Mundo, meaning the light of the world, does not practice love, practices hatred. Go watch all the documentaries out there, Netflix, HBO, and soon in the U.S. by the A&E channel. Also, where I publicly spoke up first on Brian Ross' Law and Crime channel. Stay away from this evil cult. And so we went down on the failed streams that wouldn't take off because of the connection issues. We went down the charges from, I believe, 2019 with a 16-year-old, where he says here, alleging he produced and possessed child stuff, depicting a 16-year-old. He's 54 years old. And he led this church in Santa Ana from December 2014, led the church in Mexico. He was arrested in Los Angeles, June 2019, with these child exploitation charges. And I believe that he might have had some video or pictures as well, because they charge him with porn stuff. And on May 6, 2019, Garcia knowingly employed and used, persuaded, induced, enticed, coerced a minor identified in the indictment as minor victim 1 to engage in visual depictions of conduct, which I'm guessing is video or picture. And they possessed his iPad that contained 5 videos of the minor. So crazy-ish, right? And he's the leader of this church. And Raquel mentions, this is her right here. We're going to watch this now again. Raquel mentions being born and raised in the church. We'll start this video over.
Tonight on Brian Ross Investigates, The Other Epstein. New revelations.
Bro, the other Epstein, as they're dubbing him.
About the leader of a church claiming 5 million members, under indictment and behind bars in California, charged with recruiting underage girls from his congregation for depraved sex acts.
Thinks he's not only an apostle, but he thinks he's the living Christ on this earth.
While he was behind bars, an over-the-top wedding for his daughter, as former church members come forward to allege he has diverted church money for his family's privileged life.
It kind of aggravates me because I know how hard the church members try to give as much
we're here and forgot about that. He's still all the time
as they can.
And now, a growing movement of former church members coming together on social media to reveal what goes on behind the scenes. Is it a church or is it a cult? threatening those who would try to leave.
As far as they're concerned, I'm 6 feet underground already because I have gone against the apostle of Jesus Christ on this earth.
Plus, the wave of domestic terror attacks. A former FBI agent is here to tell us what it will take to stop the American carnage. And our shout out, the investigative reporter in Alaska who found dozens of convicted felons hired as police officers still on the job.
Do you think it affects your ability to be a police officer here at all?
Not really.
From the Law and Crime Network studios
people.
in New York City's Herald Square. Welcome. Girls and now awaiting trial in a jail cell in Los Angeles. This accused sexual predator is a man of the cloth, the leader of a church that claims millions of members in the United States and around the world. His name is Nason Joaquin Garcia, and his arrest has created turmoil among his followers, creating heartbreak and tearing families apart. Raquel Guerra was 14 years old and living in Texas when she was told by her church that she had to marry her boyfriend.
How old is it? So 14?
When she was told by her Raquel Guerra was 14 years old.
14 years old?
And living in Texas when she was told by her church that she had to marry her boyfriend because they had had sex. They had fornicated, her pastor told her.
I kind of felt like there wasn't really a choice because you're kind of scared of actually going to hell because they really, really put that in your head.
And
that's how I felt when I was growing up as Jehovah's Witness. You know, I grew up like that. My mother's Jehovah's Witness. As a kid, I always felt like I was going to hell. That's how I was always made to feel like I was going to go to hell if I did something bad. And I used to have nightmares and dreams of the devil.
He says it became a marriage marked by physical abuse and heartbreak, with the church indifferent to her plight.
Maybe it's something that I'm doing to pray to God, maybe to change my ways, that maybe I'm provoking this in some way.
Her church is known as the Light of the World Church, claiming to have 5 million members around the world.
I don't even think I ever heard of this church until now. Light of the World.
With more than 1 million members in the United States, with churches in every one of the 50 states.
Wow.
But California authorities say its supposed strict moral standards don't seem to be followed by the leader of the church, the man who calls himself the Apostle of Jesus, Nason Joaquin Garcia, accused of the very same sort of crimes that Jeffrey Epstein faced.
Wow. That's crazy to me that these people worship this guy instead of Jesus or God or whatever. And we talked about this at the previous stream before the connection cut. That he had said, somebody had said that they have to go through him first, Joaquin, before they go to Jesus or the Father.
See his photograph there.
And in the previous stream, there was a press conference by the church. I won't replay it because for those of us that watched it, we don't have to rewatch it. But the church, from what I saw in that press conference, seemed like they were kind of taking up for their leader.
And 2 of his co-defendants in a major sex trafficking and sex abuse case.
Joaquin Garcia is now under indictment behind bars in Los Angeles, awaiting trial on charges that he and his followers recruited teenage girls for a series of depraved sex acts.
The type of crimes that belong nowhere in our society. From human trafficking, production of child pornography, oral copulation, rape, statutory rape, child molestation, extortion, conspiracy, and more.
And now former members of the church have begun to organize, using social media, including this site on Reddit, a public effort to expose what they say is the corrupt, hypocritical, and immoral leadership of Joaquin Garcia and his worldwide church.
He's demented.
A hell of a shrine, too.
He's not right in the head. He thinks he's not only an apostle, but he thinks he's the living Christ on this earth. When he speaks to his congregation, he literally, when he walks through his walkway, he says, "You have not received me as only as an apostle of Christ. You have received me as Jesus Christ himself."
This must be like a high to this guy. Must feel like He is Jesus, the way these people worship him.
This man, who we will call Jose, says he became disgusted with the church as he realized the sexual depravity of Joaquin Garcia. He says the church is more like a cult
Hide your
than
kids,
an
hide your
actual
wife.
religion designed to benefit Joaquin Garcia and his family. Joaquin Garcia's grandfather founded the church and was passed on to his son and then to the current leader.
We're taught that you're supposed to love the apostle more than your mom, more than your dad,
What?
more than your wife, more than your husband, more than your kids, more than anybody on this earth. Because they compare him with the power of God, the voice of God in flesh here on earth. And you cannot go to the Father or to the Son without going through him first. So they teach you have believed in God in vain. You have believed in Jesus Christ in vain if you don't believe.
All tax free, right, Catherine? It reminds me, I don't know if that's the Scientology people, one of them churches too, or whatever, that like you see that like one person leaves the church because of whatever reason, trauma or abuse, and then the other family that's in the church, they don't talk with them anymore. I forgot the word is. Abolish, or I forgot the word is. They just, or I can't think of the word, but they excommunicate them. They don't talk to them anymore.
Believe in the apostle on this earth.
And the church spends huge sums on its apostle with elaborate birthday party celebrations.
Oh.
This church in Oregon posted a big public happy birthday video. The church has built a private zoo and ranch for the apostle in
What? They got a private zoo, some Pablo Escobar-ish. What?
happy birthday video. The church has built a private zoo and ranch for the apostle in Texas. And even as he was behind bars in California, his daughter was married in an over-the-top wedding in California, to the dismay of many former members.
Kind of aggravates me because I know how hard the church members try to give as much as they can. They go without. To be blessed to give such a big offering and for them to do things of this nature with their hard-earned money.
The church insists its leader, the apostle, is innocent of any wrongdoing, and it has told its followers to pray for Joaquin Garcia to be found not guilty. Church leaders have also told members to
Yeah, so they're praying for him. He was found guilty, though, for those that don't know, but I guess the church was praying for him not to be found guilty.
shun, to ignore those who speak out against him.
Even if it were your brother, your father, your mother, avoid speaking to them, because their word eat away like gangrene, because it is very dangerous to speak with those people.
The way it works in the church is that if you're not with them, you're against them. The way it works, what they preach is, if you are deviating from the path of the Lord, you're from the devil now. The devil has gotten you. The devil has done everything he could with you. So your conversations, you're pretty much meaningless.
And Jose says when he appeared on the Spanish-language television network Univision this month, his family told him he was essentially dead to them.
Right now, I'm actually a disgrace.
Wow.
Right now, I am no longer a son. Right now, I no longer exist. Right now, I'm actually pretty much a bum on the streets. I'm 6 feet underground already because I have gone against the apostle of Jesus Christ on this earth.
Raquel.
And so this is Raquel again. This is Matthew's stepmother, right? And she made the post. And what people are saying about the 2-hour video, which we're not going to watch the entire 2-hour video. We're going to listen to some of it. We're going to look at some of the translation. But people that watched it, here's somebody says, one of the church members made a 2-hour video. He gives his condolences to Raquel, but then brings up that when she spoke up against the church, he's criticizing how she's living in this world. He criticizes all the pictures of Matthew when he posed with guns and money. He makes a statement regarding the time that she was doing interviews and talking about the leaders of the church. So they got some beef, Raquel and the church. And speaking down on the church. She should be raising her son correctly so he can become a good citizen. In hindsight, I thought she was being dramatic, but I thought the guy was actually just giving his 2 cents like everybody else. But after watching the church videos and all these things that I'm learning about the church, I don't think he had any right to shame her. Okay. And somebody else said, if you look at the older post by Raquel, she has been speaking out against the church cult. Her family was part of it, and her and others ended up leaving and speaking out about what they do. Her father wasn't allowed to attend her wedding because they only allowed to marry within the church. He went to the wedding anyway, and she couldn't share the picture of him walking her down the aisle until after he passed away. Wow.
Guerra says she had to leave the church once she sought a divorce from her husband, causing strains with her family.
I mean, we do talk, of course, but I really don't have a really close relationship with my family. And especially probably after this, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm disowned.
Because you're talking with us right now?
Yes.
That would be seen as a sin?
Oh, it's worse than a sin. It's going against the man of God. It's beyond a sin.
And why?
Even talk. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
And so why are you doing it?
Because I'm tired of seeing my family just being deceived. They really don't see it. As much as you try and tell them, show them facts, they refuse to even consider that this could be a cult.
In a court filing this week, lawyers for Joaquin Garcia claimed he was framed, set up by women who were in love with him and sought to make money by extorting him with what they called false claims. The court papers name one woman who the lawyers say is part of a conspiracy against the church leader. The lawyers declined to appear on our program tonight, but say they will come on next week. We hope they do, as this story seems to be far, far from over. Next, a former top FBI profiler on the recent wave of mass shootings by young, white American males.
Okay. So, yeah, I want to check that out. That was from 2019. Raquel referred to that. She referred to it in the comment section of this. Let's see here. She's like, right here. For those people wanting to know why the church cult light of the world would make such an evil video about our children, this is why. So she linked the Brian Ross Investigates video. Now, there was a press conference. Well, this was in 2020, and there's another one from just a year ago, 2022. You filed complaints against this church leader. So everybody's come from the church leader, and the church leader saying they're just clout chasing.
I am the founder of the law firm Jeff Anderson and Associates, and I am here today with Deborah Mulgrave and Josh Robbins of the Greenberg Gross firm, and we stand here today privileged and honored to stand with a very courageous survivor.
Oh, it's a survivor.
Who has found her voice and had the courage to speak. And also the courage to file a federal action, a lawsuit, just late yesterday in the Central District of California Federal Court. And it is titled Social Martin versus La Luz del Mundo as an organization and all the leaders of it who either knew of and or have participated in a very grave criminal enterprise involving RICO, sexual assault and the cover-up of it, and trafficking, among other things included in this complaint. In a few moments, you will hear from Soto. But before you do, I want you to hear from Deb Mulgrave, and then also we'll go to Josh Robbins, who is a former federal prosecutor, who has had experience in investigating and looking at serious criminal enterprises, such as this we believe to be. So with that in mind, Deb Mulgrave, please step forward next to Soto here and share with us more about today.
Good morning. Soto Martin has a story unlike anything you've ever heard. The day she walked into our offices and told me about her life at La Luz de Mundo, I admit, it's strained belief to imagine that such a large, corrupt, and criminal organization could exist right under my own nose, undetected, with a global membership reaching into the millions. But as I got to know Soto and spoke to more LDM survivors, a tangled web of human trafficking, sexual abuse, and forced labor began to emerge. We stand here today, and we are moving forward in court to speak for literally thousands of victims of Nathan Joaquin Garcia and his conspirators.
Wow, they're saying there's thousands of victims? Oh my gosh.
Soto's entire life, every memory, every crossroads, every relationship was defined and controlled by a circle of pernicious, profiteering men that took her body, her labor, and her childhood for their own benefit and sexual enjoyment. Soto was trained as a sexual servant at the tender age of 9. She began to work over 40 hours a week for LDM when she was just 14. And every extra penny that she earned for over 30 years went to the pockets of the men who built their lavish lifestyles off the backs of their members. Even today, Soto is stalked, threatened, and harassed by the institution that lied to her every day of her life.
So maybe it's true what Orkel's saying. All the threats and stuff.
Not a day has gone by in Soto's 33 years that has not been haunted by abuse, coercion, and lies. And what begs belief is that there are literally thousands like her. The lawsuit filed yesterday is the first step in dismantling a complex, corrupt, and powerful institution built on human trafficking and sexual abuse. Some problems are so pervasive, so daunting, that only by appealing to fundamental concepts of justice and righteousness can we begin to heal. A lone individual's fight against the Goliaths behind human rights violations, modern-day slavery, and criminal enterprises requires aggressive, audacious legal undertakings. LDM is precisely the kind of organization, and their abuse of Soto is precisely the kind of injury behind sweeping laws like the Trafficking Victim Protections Reauthorization Act, RICO, and the new national wave of sexual assault legislation. Behind every fight against Goliath, there is a David. It is an honor and a privilege to represent a true warrior of justice, Soto Martin. And no one can tell her story like she can. It is with great honor I present to you my client, Soto Martin.
Hello, my name is Soto Martin. I am 33 years old and grew up here in Los Angeles. In 1986, I was born in the inner circle of La Luz del Mundo and raised to be the property of the apostle Samuel Joaquin and his son after, Nason Joaquin Garcia. For the first 30 years of my life, I was taught to believe that my body, my mind, my soul belonged to La Luz del Mundo because it was the will of God. From the age of 9, I was taught that my own family and community, that my eternal soul depended on me sexually pleasing La Luz del Mundo apostles.
Wow, bro, that's crazy.
For nearly 22 years, I was made to work for, travel for, lie for, and give my body to an organization that saw me as nothing more than a source of profit and sexual pleasure. Hundreds, if not thousands, of other children before me and after me suffered the same fate. I come forward today because this has to stop. Generations of young children raised in La Luz del Mundo have been forced to become the sexual servants of La Luz del Mundo's apostles. Girls that should be playing with friends and enjoying their youth spend their time learning how to dance for and touch apostles. As they grow up, these children are forced into more horrific sexual acts. And they can never say no. Their parents, their community, and their ministers teach them that God wants this, that God wants them to please their apostles. And no one who speaks out, and anyone who speaks out, I am someone who has done that, and I have gone through this, the risks of being shamed and abused by the community that raised them, and myself. For far too many La Luz del Mundo members, everything they have is taken by La Luz del Mundo. Every dollar they make goes to La Luz del Mundo because they truly believe their money will be used to do the work of God on earth. But all of the hard-earned money goes to making Nason and his enablers rich. Even the treasured golden family heirlooms of La Luz del Mundo members are melted down to paint the house of the apostles. La Luz del
What is it? They melt down
Mundo
the...
not only do the work of God on earth, but all of the hard-earned money goes to making Nason and his enablers rich. Even the treasured golden family heirlooms of La Luz del Mundo members are melted down to paint the house of the apostles.
Wow, that's crazy. Because that guy was sitting on some crazy-ass throne, too. Something like I never seen before, the leader. And so she's saying, I guess they make families melt down, like their cherished jewels, or like, who knows, like your grandmother passed and she left you this, or your mother passed and this is like some sort of sentimental jewelry or whatever. They make you melt that shit down.
La Luz del Mundo not only takes children and money from its members, but their labor too. Many thousands of La Luz del Mundo members are coerced into working tirelessly in all conditions to provide La Luz del Mundo and its leaders. La Luz del Mundo temples in your own town, those were built by coerced, unpaid La Luz del Mundo members. The propaganda that La Luz del Mundo spreads online, that was created by coerced, unpaid La Luz del Mundo members. The food that the pastors eat, the celebrations that La Luz del Mundo holds, and the goods that La Luz del Mundo sells, all of them come from the hard work of La Luz del Mundo members that have no choice but to do whatever La Luz del Mundo asks of them. La Luz del Mundo has taken everything from its members, and it will never stop unless we make it stop. Nason Joaquin Garcia is in jail, but La Luz del Mundo and Nason's enablers continue to commit crimes every day. I know, standing here today, that coming forward and bringing this case will make me a villain thousands of La Luz del Mundo services this week, and hundreds of thousands of La Luz del Mundo members will gather to celebrate the Holy Supper, Samuel's birthday, Holy Supper, it's all the same thing. And Nason's enablers will call me a liar and conspirator, and then coerce their members into giving their last pennies to help Nason fight me and people like me. And while they do that, Nason's family...
Nason, by the way, for the people that just joined, is the leader, the cult leader that was arrested, I believe, in California.
Family, friends, and bishops will sit back,
or the church leader. I don't know. It's being dubbed a cult from a lot of different, articles. Cult leader, quote unquote.
Comfortably in a lavish lifestyle that they built off the backs of their members, planning the next generation of abuse and theft. It is time to say no more. But stopping La Luz del Mundo from victimizing its followers is not something that I can do alone. There are countless more of you like me, and I need your help. I hope that by standing here today, some of you will see yourself in me. A very good friend of mine. He's an activist for human trafficking, and he says he does this because he sees all those little children out there like it was him when he was younger. A very, very dear friend of mine. And I see a lot of Xochilitas out there. All of the Jane Does. Not just the ones in the California case. They're everywhere. It's international. I hope you see yourself in me and decide that you do not have to be silent anymore. That you can speak up and say stop. That you won't be afraid any longer, and that you will tell the world what has happened to you, and what happened to you is not right. What happened to us is not right. It is not a blessing. It is not from God. It is not right. Your stories can help us bring down this corrupt organization. If we all come together and speak as one voice, there is nothing La Luz del Mundo can do to silence us. Thank you very much.
Soto, please know that your hope that those are being hurt as we speak can now get help, and something can be done through the effort and your courage today. And others in the future may not be. Know that this action that you are taking today, and to that end, is a realization of the hope that kids are better protected than you have been.
Exactly.
Thank you. We'll do that then. Josh Robbins, former federal prosecutor, tell us more about this lawsuit, these claims, and the magnitude of them.
There are various dimensions to this case. It's a human rights case. It's a case about the sexual abuse of children. But it is also a case about organized crime. As detailed in the complaint that we filed, La Luz del Mundo is a massive global organization that for decades has systematically exploited its members in ways that are not only gross violations of human rights, but are also federal and state crimes. And it's been happening right here in our backyard. The complaint details one of the largest and most insidious human trafficking operations ever seen, in which LDM members were coerced into giving up their own children to be raped and abused.
I just can't even fathom that, how these people are so brainwashed and lose themselves that they give up their own children. There's nothing in you that, like, even though you're brainwashed, says like this is wrong. Your own children. What the heck? And, you know, as I'm looking, I mean, there's stuff still coming up to this day. We're going to continue looking at this, but this is a thing from 2020. We're going to look at another press thing from 2022, more allegations and lawsuits. But even when I was just browsing now, and this is from October 27, 2023, where it says cult leader faces new charges. I won't go through the whole thing, but we talked at the beginning of the live stream how he was charged with these counts of having child stuff, videos and whatever else. He's 53 now, I guess. Produced and possessed child videos and pictures. And this specifically was with regards to the 16-year-old, where he forced her to engage in explicit stuff and shared pictures and videos, I guess. Former believers in Houston say the cult-like church taught them to view Garcia as the apostle of Jesus Christ and to keep silent during his court proceedings, are celebrating the new charges. Yet they worry for the family members who continue to attend daily gatherings across the city in support of the spiritual leader. They still support him. They stand by him. They pray for him. And there's another person, Flores, who was SA by a church member when she was 12, recently noted that she knew of other women who were assaulted as well. She recalled seeking help from her brother to remove herself, her 5 children, and grandchildren from the Houston church community in January 2021. So, there's still to this day things coming out.
By the leaders of the organization. It also describes the widespread practice of forced, unpaid labor.
They have churches everywhere, all over, but the leader's church, I thought it was in Mexico. I mean, he was arrested in LAX. Let me see here. The leader's church, Nasan, he previously served for the church in Santa Ana from December 2014, led the church in Mexico, and he was arrested in Los Angeles. So, and I think where this had happened, this incident in 2019, I guess, might have been LA, I think.
Labor, as well as extortion and money laundering, all of which served to enrich the leadership of LDM. As described in the complaint, these schemes have gone on for many years. They've involved at least dozens of participants and thousands of victims. They've been directed from the very top of the LDM organization, which has taken extraordinary steps to silence Miss Martin and other survivors who would dare to speak the truth about LDM. But she's not being silent today. It is no accident that many of the claims that we have filed in this case are based on federal criminal laws. Among those is the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which Congress enacted and strengthened over the years to fight exactly the sorts of schemes that LDM has been engaged in. We've also filed a claim under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Statute, that is RICO. That law was designed to combat organized crime, and it specifically extends to human trafficking organizations, which is one of its most important uses today. This case calls out for law enforcement action. We applaud the efforts of the authorities thus far, and we are committed to cooperating with them to help bring LDM and its leadership to justice. But this case is also very much about Soto Martin. She is both a survivor of and a witness to LDM's extensive crimes. She has the right, and in her view, the duty, to take action in her own name and to fight for other survivors like her. This civil action and the laws on which it is based empower her to do just that.
Soto Martin, the voice that you have shared today and the action that you take in this lawsuit that has been detailed. Step up here.
Whoa, wait a minute. What the heck? Elissa Flores sent the super chat, said, I did this article because it's the truth. Now, in this article that I pulled up, I'm like, Elissa Flores. In this article that I pulled up, it says Elissa Flores, a member of the Houston congregation for 46 years, describes a family torn apart by allegations of sexual abuse inside the church. So I guess that's her in the chat. Let's see if I can read the story. Okay, here we go. What's this part here? Former believers in Houston who say the cult-like church taught them to view Garcia as the apostle of Jesus Christ and to keep silent during his court proceedings are celebrating the new charges, yet they worry for the family members who continue to attend daily gatherings across the city in support of their spiritual leader. The federal charges are a sign of relief. Elissa Flores, who attended services at La Luz del Mundo in Houston for 46 years. Wow. Said Thursday, finally, this is a victory for the victims of this cult. It's a way to keep the children safe. Garcia and the church were thrown into the national spotlight when he was arrested on state charges in California in 2019. Authorities said they seized an iPad from Garcia at the time, and they found 5 videos of child videos and probably pictures. Flores, who said she was SA'd by a church member, which you also, that's her. Holy crap. Well, thank you for being in the chat. I'm sorry that happened to you, and thank you for speaking up. She was SA'd by a church member when she was 12 years old and recently noted that she knew of other women who were assaulted, recalled seeking help from her brother to remove herself, her 5 children, and grandchildren from the Houston church community in January 2021. The charges were mind-shattering, she said. Children are taught that the apostle is a man of God, and without him, there's no salvation. It's hard to see him for the monster he truly is. Flores eventually believed prosecutors were too lenient in June 2022 when they dropped 16 counts against Garcia, including allegations of human trafficking and R-ing children and women. In exchange, Garcia pleaded guilty to 3 counts of SA and was sentenced to California Institution for Men in Chino. Flores, Flores was livid when learning that Garcia made a 15-minute phone call to his devoted congregants on October 14 to celebrate the birthday of his grandfather. I'm not physically present, but I'm here with you all, Garcia said, according to the Spanish-language newspaper El País. You may not see me, but you can definitely feel my presence in this wonderful gathering. So he's still behind bars, talking with the church, giving, who knows, sermons maybe, celebrating his grandfather's birthday. The church is still supporting him, even when being convicted. And it says, from his prison cell, he is still guiding the church, Flores said. That's not justice for the victims. That's not justice for me. That's not justice, period. It's always crazy to see how much, like, people that have done smaller crimes, maybe like weed or some type of drug or even protest, have longer sentences than people that are charged for assaulting, doing sexual stuff to children, even having video. Isn't that crazy? How does that even work out? Garcia's grandfather, Eusebio Aaron Joaquin, founded the La Luz del Mundo in 1926 in Mexico, Guadalajara. I think that's how you say it. His grandfather and father, Samuel Joaquin Flores, led the church until he took it over in 2014. The church now claims it has more than 5 million followers globally. An email seeking comment from the church on the new federal charges wasn't immediately returned. Flores and her 8 siblings grew up in the church in Houston. In fact, Samuel Joaquin Flores named her after his wife. Wow. Today, Flores is no longer part of the church. 3 of her siblings are out, 2, but 5 other siblings and aunts, uncles, and nephews and nieces have still shunned her and her children as they denounce the state and federal charges against their apostle. I've lost part of my family, she said. That is just mind-boggling to me. That is like, holy crap. Flores has considered changing her name given to her by the church, but she still believes the namesake helps fuel her efforts to speak out against the alleged SA crimes. Samuel named me, and I thought that I belonged to him and the church, she said. To use his name and to speak against the church feels powerful, very powerful. Other former church members have described their experiences in numerous news segments, and in 2022, 3-part HBO docuseries, unveiled Surviving La Luz del Mundo. That's what Raquel was saying, that there's like an HBO docu. I think there's a Netflix thing. I haven't watched any of them. Maybe I'll check it out sometime. Flores has sought to help former church members speaking about their own experiences in church in Houston. In March, she joined local immigration rights organization, FIEL, and held a news conference. I thought maybe the video was there. Okay, so she held a news conference in front of the sanctuary near the East Freeway, where a teenage girl alleged that she was SA'd by a relative and church member. That person, Juan Garcia Perez, remains at large. Flores believes that Perez fled to Mexico years ago. Caleb Limas, the church's choir director in Houston, was arrested and charged in August with a felony count of indecency with child sexual contact. What kind of church is this? Not just one member, but multiple members in this church? Is that why they're all backing and supporting the leader, even after being convicted? Damn.
You know that you did not have to use your name, and you did not have to stand here today. And in this lawsuit, Soto Martin, under the California Child Protection Act and under the laws, could have confidential and her name private. But Social, you made a choice to stand here today and use your name and file this claim, this racketeering claim, this trafficking claim, this sexual assault and cover-up claim, because you want kids to be protected the way you weren't. And you have broken the bonds imposed upon you by this culture and found that voice. And so what Soto wants folks in this community to know, that it's not just about this community or this state or this country. This is a worldwide enterprise.
That's just wild, man. I mean, salute to Soto's, her bravery, and also Flores and anybody else. Let's take a look at this. This is 30. I don't know if we'll watch this whole thing, but let's definitely skim it. So this is from a more recent time, September 2022. And this is more complaints filed against La Luz del Mundo megachurch.
And widespread abuse of countless of its most vulnerable victims, all while the clergy and its highest members were complicit in allowing it to happen, and also helping to cover up the abuse throughout the years. Earlier this year, we all were aware of a criminal trial that was brought forward regarding the 5 plaintiffs in this case and prosecuted by the Attorney General's office. Unfortunately, due to procedural and technical issues, nothing to do with the actual facts of the case, nothing to do with any of the evidence that the Jane Does had regarding their abuse that they had been experiencing for the past several years. Nason was able to secure a plea deal that offered just 16 years and 8 months for the heinous acts that he committed against these victims. We have filed this lawsuit on behalf of those 5 plaintiffs. It's a civil action where we will be seeking monetary damages for all of the pain, trauma, and injuries that they have suffered at the hands of Nason and this church. This abuse is of the most devastating and vile abuse one could even begin to imagine.
There's another article, and this one again references Elissa. It's the El País article. But they say here too that people have gotten death threats from the church.
Complaint only begins to scratch the tip of the surface in terms of what they actually suffered day in, day out. And coming forward and speaking out against this church, their hope is that they could finally put an end to all of the abuse that has been going on for the past 100 years. Based off of the evidence that we have so far, it's our belief that there are thousands and thousands of other victims out there. California has opened a statute that allows for all childhood victims of sexual abuse to come forward regarding their abuse now through the end of this calendar year, December 31st, 2022. It is our hope that any other victims come forward and join in with these plaintiffs to speak out against this church and finally put an end to all of the damage and all of the destruction that has resulted in their actions. Before I pass it on to my colleagues, I would like to provide an opportunity to 2 of the former victims and members of the church to come forward and speak a little bit about their experience. Would you like to say it?
That's kind of interesting. So we're going to get to hear some experiences from former church members.
And words. Would you like to say any words? Yes. Here, take my seat.
Microphone. Switch.
This is fine.
By the way, make sure you guys subscribe to my second channel. I'm out of notifications. We had a bunch of technical difficulties
We are here
today.
in support.
So if there's a chase tonight, I don't think I'll go live from this channel. It's going to be the second one. So just make sure you subscribe. Had a bunch of technical difficulties today. And at the end of the stream, I'll tell you what's in store for tomorrow. There's a lot going on tomorrow. And unfortunately, I don't have notifications. I think that we're just going to go live in the afternoon and cover whatever we can cover, like whatever ones have gone live. For those, just interrupt them for a second. Tracy Faraday tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Sarah Boone, 9 a.m. Adam Montgomery, 9 a.m. Alex Murdoch, 9:30 a.m. I don't know if they're all going to be live or not. So what I'm thinking is we come on in the afternoon, and whatever's live, we'll just go by order and we'll watch it all together. So just keep that in mind for tomorrow. They'll be here on the main channel. But yeah, subscribe to the second channel because if there's chases or standoffs tonight, it's going to be on the second channel.
Of the Jane Does, and also in support of those many other victims that are still in the dark, so to speak, who because of their membership in the church and their family's membership in the church feel that they are unable to speak up about the abuse that they have suffered at the hands of either Nason Garcia or his father, Samuel Joaquin. And we want them to know that they are not alone, that there are many of us who were once members of the church, who were also victims ourselves, that are standing together in solidarity with, like I said already, the Jane Does, and that we will also stand in solidarity with them and those who choose to speak up and seek help. That there is help for them, there is support for them here.
Oh, they brought a bunch of food.
That what they have gone through is not right. And that what the Jane Does are seeking and we seek is justice for them as well as we embark on this journey.
And by the way, so a couple people are saying Elissa, or yeah, Elissa. If you want to call it, you can call it if you want. You can, or send me an email at ickandmail@gmail.com. We don't have to do it now, and if you wanted to, we can set something up for another day. Where if you want to come out and talk sometime, we can. If you want to share your story, whether it's live or we could just do it pre-recorded, whatever you're more comfortable with.
And so that is, I think, our main message, is that they are not alone. That there are many who believe them because we lived through it ourselves, and that the support for them exists should they choose to step forward or seek help.
Can you share something in Spanish? Puedo decir en Spanish. Can I say it in Spanish?
Yeah. Can you sit in front of the microphone here?
Okay. Víctima también.
We're gonna fast forward the Spanish part.
On Thursday, it's entirely consistent with it. And this generational arc of sexual abuse at the church was present in her story as well.
One of the things that is especially egregious about the actions of La Luz del Mundo, as well as its apostles, is that this has been a systemic and generational abuse. Many of our clients still have family members that are in the church. Their mothers, their grandmothers were all abused in the same way. It took the courage of these 5 plaintiffs, of these 5 Jane Does, to come forward to finally put an end to it before it continues for future generations as well. Does anyone have any questions before I pass it on to my clients, to my other associates? Okay. The 5 Jane Does, the complaint is quite detailed. It's not alleging nearly all of the abuse, but it does do a pretty concise job of really summarizing their experience. In California, victims of sexual abuse are entitled to anonymity, and based off of their age and all of the media attention that has come forward, as well as countless threats and other actions that have potentially put them at harm's way, it's our intention to maintain that anonymity on their behalf. And so we're happy to answer any questions on their behalves, but at this point, none of those 5 are willing to come forward. Yes?
Yes. What's the status of the previous federal lawsuit, and what is this, I may have missed this part, but what is this going to accomplish that the plea deal did not?
The federal suit has been filed by another victim. It's an entirely separate lawsuit. Again, there are many of the same actors. It's alleging very common facts against the church and its members, as well as the apostle. In terms of the criminal case was brought forward specifically regarding these 5 Jane Does. Ultimately, because of a procedural issue where the prosecution failed to provide evidence that the defendants were entitled to, the Attorney General's office was concerned about a potential appeal and therefore offered a plea deal that, in our opinions, in my opinion, is wholly inadequate and doesn't serve any sort of justice based off of what they were forced to endure. Our hope in bringing forward this civil lawsuit is to be able to really utilize the legal system in the way that it was appropriately intended, bring forward all of the facts and evidence that we have, which is just immense, and be able to achieve the justice that I believe they were robbed of in the criminal case. It's Joey Yedidzian, Jonah T. Joey Yedidzian.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
According to the Department of Corrections, Nason Joaquin is eligible for parole in March 2031, which
eligible for parole March 2031.
would mean a reduction of 5 years to his sentence. did Jane those things about it, and what do you think?
I believe that the initial plea deal of 16 years and 8 months was entirely inadequate and barely begins to cover the true sentencing that Nason was actually entitled to and deserved.
We're going to skip a little bit ahead.
We know that the criminal prosecution is about punishment. It's about taking someone's freedom away for violating the law.
Yeah, I think we're good with that. I wanted to show, I don't know if this is, let's see here. This is when he was a year ago, sentenced to over 16 years in prison.
Day of reckoning for the man whose millions of followers call him the Apostle, Jesus on earth.
Jesus on
Nason
earth.
Garcia admitting in court he sexually abused young girls in his church.
Do you remember when you wanted me to bring my little sister to you so that you can violate her too?
They saved countless young girls in this church from being abused by this man.
And sentenced to prison.
And as to the defendant. Wow, that must have been really intense. And he's there with no expression on his face. That woman said that she made him or made her bring her sister to get involved in those acts.
I say, you are a sexual predator. Defendant's levied a term of state prison of 16 years and 8 months.
Dozens outside the Los Angeles courthouse protesting.
He's a criminal! He's a criminal!
Some of his victims say the Apostle got off easy.
It's a slap in the face. They slapped us in the face.
Plus, this week's winners and losers in the media. See if you agree with the choices made by the editors of Mediaite. From the studios of the Law and Crime Trial.
Wow.
Welcome to everyone watching us on Facebook Live. I'm Brian Ross, joined as always by my colleague Rhonda Schwartz. And Rhonda, we begin tonight with the day of reckoning for a man who calls himself the Apostle, the leader of a church that claims 5 million members in the United States and around the world. Nason Joaquin Garcia has now pleaded guilty to sexually abusing young girls in his church under a plea deal that some of his victims felt let him off too easily. Rhonda.
That's right, Brian. At the sentencing hearing in a Los Angeles courtroom, prosecutor Patricia Fusco said no man of God would ever do what he did to these victims, the so-called Jane Does, who in emotional testimony told the judge of the impact of his crimes on them, all as Garcia stared straight ahead, stone-faced, never looking once at his victims.
I am Jane Doe 4. I am overwhelmed with emotion as I stand here today. I want to start by clearly stating that Nason and this church have ruined my life. Every aspect of it. I have suffered more trauma and pain than I can ever begin to describe. All I have ever wanted was to see Nason go to trial for what he did to me, to us, to speak the truth in this courtroom, my truth. And to tell the world who this man really is. I had no way out. You didn't just rape me over and over again. You were evil and merciless. I went from being an innocent virgin to experiencing the most violent, revolting treatment ever. Do you remember when you wanted me to bring my little sister to you?
Bro, this is wild. And he's just facing forward. And I notice a lot of these criminals love that COVID mask, you know, so they can kind of hide their face and stuff. Nobody else is wearing a mask. This rapist, I don't have to say alleged because he's sentenced, pled guilty, hides behind a mask.
So that you can violate her too. I told you. She's only 14. Do you remember what you said to me? Do you remember saying that I should have brought her to you sooner?
Wow.
Do you remember when you commanded me
she say? Dog?
Sex with one of your dogs as your 50th birthday present.
Wow.
Do you remember telling me how much you wanted your husky to defile me?
Your husky?
Was raping me not enough? I'm done. I'm tired of being blamed by everyone.
Wow.
I'm done with people telling me this is a blessing. To the world, I'm trash. And to church, I'm a failure. And I'm not ready to tell anybody. But I had to. But soon I will. Nathan, the time has come. Today is the day. The time for people to know what you put me through. I'm raising my voice here in this court in front of the evil monster who abused me, raped me, and broke me. For so long, I didn't have a voice, and I didn't think that anyone would care enough to hear me.
And the prosecutor told the judge that the 5
Holy moly, that was intense. No, she said dog. I saw the caption. It said dog, and then she also said husky.
young women who had come forward to testify had paid a price for their bravery, being threatened by members of the church.
I'm imploring every member of this church today to stop harassing these women. They are not enemies of the church. They were brave enough to stand up to this man. They should be heroes in all of your minds. They saved countless young girls in this church from being abused by this man, by being brave enough to come forward, and now he's going to prison.
Under the terms of his deal, Garcia pleaded to only 3 of the 36 counts he was originally charged with some 3 years ago.
Got a sweetheart deal.
Judge Ronald Cohen was unsparing in his sentencing of the church leader.
And I've never ceased to be amazed at what some people do in the name of religion, and how lives are ruined in the guise of serving a supreme being. As to the Jane Does, at this point, I apologize, my hands are tied. Lawyers do what lawyers do, and at this point my hands are tied. But I further want to tell all the Jane Does that the world has heard you. I promise you that. As to those family members that have abandoned the Jane Does, shame. Shame on you. And as to the defendant, I say, you are a sexual predator. Defendant is levied a term in state prison of 16 years and 8 months.
It's fair to say that no one has worked harder to bring the apostle to justice than Soto Martin. Soto, now that he has pleaded guilty and been...
Oh, that's Soto. That's the lady we just watched in the other press conference. That's why the other person referred to him as Epstein, like another Epstein or whatever. And it's amazing that these people get such little time. Bewilders me. And that they can get a plea deal. And how many charges he took? 3 out of 36 or something? And they can get such little time. It's almost like maybe the people running this shit are rapists and pedophiles themselves. Some of them. I don't know. I mean, are the people making some of these laws? I don't know.
Been sentenced to prison. What is your reaction?
Well, Brian, my reaction and that of the reaction of the victims of Nathan Joaquin, not only sexually were we violated by him, but we were also extorted, we were trafficked, and these young women, and I'm talking about the minors in this particular situation, we're talking about children here. They were trafficked, they were sexually assaulted by Mr. Garcia, and they were violated by the entire organization. And still they made a deal with a sexual terrorist.
Prosecutors say that may have been the best deal they could have made. What do you say to that?
I say that it's a slap in the face. They slapped us in the face and they put us in a hole. That's what I think. And I think it's all BS. That's the best deal they could have made. That's BS. There's something very eerie and very wrong going on in this case.
The church now says, we will wait for you, Apostle. What does that mean in terms of any change inside this church?
That's wild.
There's not an internal investigation going on in the light of the world. That's never existed. They have always supported this pedophile, this rapist, this criminal, and who he himself just confessed that he was. And still the bishops and the hierarchy are still lying to the members.
Soto, you put your life on the line, and others did, to come forward to testify and provide evidence to prosecutors. Do you now fear there'll be some sort of retaliation against you and the others who came forward?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This will absolutely happen. They don't understand that this is not an organized religion. This is an organized institution of criminal activities. Wow. This has been running for 96 years. And these are people that run like they act like common thugs, like common thieves, and they will do anything in order to make sure that this enterprise maintains itself sturdy and strong.
What do you intend to do now?
Well, there's a RICO civil suit. This is a racketeering case.
Somebody in the chat earlier was asking about like what's up with like the RICO. They can't do a RICO charge.
And so this is a federal racketeering case, and we expect the federal authorities to come in and finish what the Department of California, the Department of Justice of the state of California, couldn't do.
So what do you say to the California Attorney General?
How dare you?
So outrage doesn't seem to describe the depth of your feelings here, Soto.
No, I'm leaving all of my pain, and I'm leaving all of my sadness aside because I need to be strong. I need to be strong because there are so many survivors out there that can't speak for themselves. I will not sit down and cry. I will not sit down and give up and cross my hands and wait and see what happens. I can't.
So for you, the fight for justice is still far from over?
Oh, it's just beginning. This is the beginning of their end.
Soto Martin, thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Thank you, Brian, for having me.
When we come back, the Apostles' Church is standing by him, saying its millions of members still don't believe the charges against him.
So church members don't believe the charges. They think it's, I don't know, they're just trying to take out the leader, and it's fake and made up.
The law and crime. One of the women who was set to testify against the apostle was one of his so-called handmaidens, Olandra Ocampo. She had already pleaded guilty and agreed to turn against him. Her husband, Christopher Kellermeyer, talks about what happens next. What is her reaction to his guilty plea and the deal he cut with the California Attorney General?
When she heard that, she started crying, and she got nauseous, really. She told me on the phone that she became nauseous because she's thinking about, all the people who are going to continue to be victimized once he's back in front of the church, especially, people in Mexico, where the long arm of the United States law won't be able to get to him.
So the church says they're going to wait for him. What do you think that means?
It literally means that they'll be praying for him. They'll be receiving his instructions from jail via letters and correspondence.
So you think, in other words, it means nothing really is going to change in that church?
Exactly.
So what does this mean for your wife then?
Mo said to me that in California, the max sentence for R-ing a minor is 13 years. He got more. It sucks, but that's what the law is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They should probably fix the law. Alyssa said they sent me She sent me an email. Okay.
Well, it's devastating for her because, well, what it means for her with the pleading guilty is that nothing changes.
She was prepared to testify, hoping she could put him behind bars.
Correct. Yes. And, not for what he did to her, for what he did to other girls, for how he's manipulated people and just treated people are basically just cash cows. It's a business, and it's also, a generations of is a system that creates generations of abusers and victims.
So what is her message? What is your message to members of the church tonight?
She's saying this is all true and it all happened. And this is very sad that he'll be probably alive in 10 years and be able to be back in front of the church and able to harm people again.
There we go.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's horrible, but Alondra is also very sad too because her parents still don't believe her, and that's very sad for her because the people that brought her in this world, brought her into this church, are basically calling her a liar still, and so yeah, it's not a good time right now for anyone in terms of happiness. Because a lot of family members are still, adhering to that faith and sticking strong to it. It's unfortunate.
Christopher Calamara, thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
No problem.
The lawyer for Miss Ocampo has been on.
So Elissa has messaged me. Elissa, she said she'd come on. I wrote her back an email to see. I don't know if she wants to just call in or she wants to come on video. So I'll give her a chance. If you guys could hit the like button, I'd appreciate it. And let me see here. I think we should start a new stream. Okay. Yeah, let me see if she writes back. Either way, it's fine with me. Okay. So let's do this. Why don't we let's start a fresh stream because I feel like how long are we into this one? We're an hour, almost an hour and 30 minutes. I don't want it to have to be like a really long stream to find what she has to say. So I'm gonna start a new one. Let me see here. Create post. Right here. Let's see. La luz del mundo. Okay. Wait 1 second. Okay. I'm just using a random picture, guys, for the thumbnail. I'll fix it up later. Okay. Don't take any, that's not right. That's not her. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So just bear with me. And I'm going to set up the stream now. And I think I should just bring her in on StreamYard. X-Cult member. La Luz del Mundo joins live. Okay. I'm going to set that up for the next stream. And Katrina, I don't know if you're still in the chat. If you could take screenshots for questions, I don't know if I have to call you because I'm not prepared at all for this. So we'll set it for 5 minutes from now. 25. Live talk. I wonder if I should just launch it from let's see. From StreamYard. You know, let me do that. Let me actually fix that. Oh, and let me not multi-stream, I guess. I just have to do YouTube because we had those issues. Do that. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Katrina. All right. And Alyssa, I'm going to send you a link for the StreamYard so we can get set up. Okay. And I'm going to redirect you guys over there now. And I have to fix my camera.